Hey guys, Ben Paynes here, and today we are back for another video, this time at Teamsport Bristol, and we are doing a members social night. And you know how this one goes, we have 3 15-minute sessions, and this in fact, what you're watching now is the second session of 3. However, before we do get into the rest of the video, I would just like to say, if you do enjoy the video, could you please hit the like button, and please do subscribe if you are new, as we are really getting quite close to 100 subscribers now, which is a really big milestone for me, and I really would appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button down below, as it really does motivate me to make more videos in the future. However, moving straight into the video, we can see that we are at Bristol and the first lap time is a 39.143, which is something that I'm not really used to getting. It was quite a slow time. You can see the driver ahead going all over the place there, and as a matter of fact, that felt a little bit how I was feeling as well while I was driving around. I felt there was absolutely no grip in the karts whatsoever on this evening. This was the second session, as I mentioned, so this wasn't actually the third session. I wasn't very quick in the third session because I actually got into a kart which really didn't feel up to scratch or up to standard compared to the first 2 karts I used. The brake pedal, as I pressed it, felt really slack, really loose, and I was unable to actually get the right pressure in the brake to allow me to slow the kart down at the rate of speed which I was going, and I was really finding it quite difficult, obviously compared to Cardiff, which I have been going for the last month now, where the track is really grippy. You can see here through the bottom hairpin, opposite lock going through it, and really struggling to find any grip whatsoever, and this was the theme for the whole video. You can see how wide I'm going through each of the corners, how much the back end was actually sliding out. You can't really see it there, but the tyres were squealing an awful lot more than I'm used to from coming previously, and I was really struggling on the last corner. You can see how much understeer I'm getting compared to what I usually get. The kart usually grips in when it's a little bit warmer, and this allows me to really leave the throttle hanging in there, but even round the bottom 2 corners here, which are my favourite corners to go around, I was really struggling to actually slow the kart down enough and at the right velocity to actually get a correct turn in. Again, opposite lock, which is something that you don't really want to do going into the up ramp section, because it does lose a lot of momentum, and this means that you really do begin to struggle. And here, coming up behind 2 back markers here, having a little bit of a tussle with one another, and I really wanted to try and get past as quickly as I could to try and give myself some free space on the track. So here I took a little bit of a deeper line to try and get a better exit out of the first corner here, and it felt almost like racing on a wet track. Unfortunately, I did have to back out a little bit there, and as I mentioned, did feel a little bit like racing on a wet track. Obviously I haven't done this before outside, but there was such a lack of grip that I was really struggling to actually find a way past the drivers here. You can see just tapping the kart behind there, and that led to me losing a lot of momentum. But luckily for me, they did actually see me coming behind them, and they then moved out of the way, which allowed me a lot of clean air to try and set some good laps, which is something in the first session that I've really struggled with, because there was a lot of traffic and a lot of people were really bunched together, and this meant that everyone was sort of tussling with each other, almost like a race, and this meant that it was really difficult to actually set some clean laps. So there you can see a 40.042, which I do believe is one of the slower laps of the session, obviously stuck behind 2 other karts, and I was really trying to find my momentum, much as I have in the past on this track, trying to get as close to the apex as I could and try and take the same lines I normally do, but it didn't seem to be working. I was really struggling. There you can see a driver coming up the inside there. I was trying to stay ahead and try and make some good pace, but here I just got caught napping a little bit. Obviously this was only a time session, this wasn't a race, so I wasn't looking to force my way past them again once more. And here I just decided, as they did decide to go past me, I thought if they did have the pace, I was going to stick behind them and try and fire their lines. We could see there straight away they did go a little bit wide, and that sort of threw me off, and I almost went into the side of them there. I had a better run out of the bottom corner there. I looked for a dive bomb here, and I managed to actually go through there on the inside, which I was very happy with, and got up the ramp. But unfortunately I did compromise my own exit, so we did have a little bit of a tussle here going backwards and forwards, and I think in the end here I was looking for a little bit of a move past, but I was trying not to make contact with the person ahead and try and force them wide. I wanted to try and wait for them to make a mistake and look for an overtake, because that's something that I've really been working on at Cardiff. As you know, I've been trying to be as calm and collected instead of having quite a hot head and just sort of lunging for the inside on a driver that is a little bit slower. So here you can see I did give him a little bit more room, but I seem to be catching up again straight away and coming into the bottom hairpin here, getting a really bad exit, and even shaking my head there, getting a little bit frustrated with myself obviously not actually managing to keep up with the driver that overtook me. So here I was deciding to actually back off a little bit more, trying to give myself a little bit more space in comparison to really closing up behind them and sort of compromise myself. So here on this lap you can see I really was slowing down, trying to make sure I was checking behind me. Here you can't fully see the rotation of my head, but I was waiting for a driver behind me so I could sort of push ahead and try and stay ahead of them rather than be overtaken again. So as you can see in the top left, our fastest lap was a 38.775. I really wanted to beat this, as my time in the first session was a 38.8, and that's something I really felt I could beat by going around the track with a little bit more pace, a little bit more clean air. As I mentioned in the first session, I was really struggling with a lot of traffic, and this meant I had quite a slow lap. But here straight away you can see getting a little bit of a cleaner exit here. I was trying to really be careful with the pedals, and here the driver ahead just braking on the line there, and that allowed me to just sort of dip down the inside there, as I think they were slowing down for someone else. And we do come across the line now of a 38.852, so even being behind another driver I was able to actually just get a decent lap and sort of match my pace in the first session. You can see there the driver on the left going really wide, and this allowed me to just slip through once again, and I was slipping all over the track, if I'm brutally honest, and I was finding it really difficult. Obviously the grip at Cardiff is so much more intense, and the karts actually turn in a lot more compared to what they were on this evening. I was really struggling, especially through the bottom right hander, which you're going to see again here. You come down and really miss the apex, go really wide, and I also slid quite wide as well on the exit, so I was actually compromising myself there a little bit, coming across the line with a 38.340, so the times still aren't too quick, but I was still very happy, as by the end of the session I was in fact the third fastest driver on the track. So I hope you stay tuned to the end of the video to see what sort of times we get, but obviously these aren't akin to the ones we previously had at Bristol, getting 36, 37 second laps, but as long as I can keep pace with some of the other drivers around me, especially the lighter drivers, some of the juniors and the lightweights and the middleweights, obviously being a heavyweight, this really does fill me with a lot of confidence that I'm able to have a lot more pace than I think I do. And at this point we were about halfway into the session, and I was really struggling still, because he's shaking my head, really getting a poor exit out of that last corner, and it really does compromise your time coming across the line. You see a 38.915, which is really difficult, because when the tyres are slipping on this surface and you don't get good traction out of the corner, which I did there on the bottom hairpin, you really do compromise your speed coming across the start finish line. And here there was a yellow flag in fact in this session, and one of many, which I'm really not surprised about, as even in the first session I was really struggling with the brakes. They felt a little bit firmer compared to the ones at Cardiff, so I was hitting them a little bit too hard, and this did mean that the back end of the car really was beginning to slide out. But with the yellow flag I did give myself a little bit of an opportunity to slow down even further, to try and give myself even more space to any karts ahead, to try and give myself as much of a clean track as possible and just time and space as I could. As I said in the first session, this really wasn't a commodity, and it was really difficult to actually set some decent times. So at this point in the session I felt that I was beginning to flow a little bit better. I was beginning to understand how the kart was gripping into the corners, so really going half throttle through that corner where you usually go full throttle through when it is a little bit warmer and the tyres grip in a little bit more, almost scraping the barrier there on the left. I'm really trying to perfect this final right hand corner. I did go a little bit smoother there and able to get a bit of a straighter line coming out of it, and that led to a 38.597, which is our fastest lap so far, and I was very happy with this, as it was one of the fastest times of the evening compared to where I was a few laps ago, where I was at 38.8, which is quite a bit of time that I managed to save. And there, going down the inside of another driver that was going a little bit slow, and I was quite happy about that, as I didn't really want to get stuck behind people. I felt that I was in a bit of a flow state here, getting really close to the apexes. You can see there on the left Sam Slater, he was there on the night and he was putting in some really good times. I was actually in the first and second session only 0.005 seconds behind, so 5,000 of a second behind him in both sessions, and that was completely identical in both sessions, which I was really proud of, as he is the indoor champion for the BIKC, both for last year and the year before that. So it was a bit of a privilege to be sharing the track with him. But once again we trying to get a bit of a smoother exit coming out of the bottom hairpin, but it just wasn't happening. I found the kart was sliding. I wasn't able to actually apply the throttle in the correct way. I felt like I was hitting it a little bit too fast, and this led to the back end of the kart sliding out and obviously in these sort of conditions you want to have as good throttle control as possible in order to maximise your exits. There I did go a little bit wide, almost scraping the wall there, and we do come across the line with a 38.598, so only 1,000th off our fastest lap so far, so the consistency is beginning to come. As I mentioned, I was beginning to get into a little bit more of a flow state, and this was evident through this lap, as this was in fact my fastest lap of the race. You can see there on the bottom hairpin, really using the slip angle and trying to get as clean an exit as I possibly could up the ramp, maximising the track as much as I can, getting really close to the apexes here on both of the top hairpin sections, coming down the ramp here, and this is where all the time is made compared to other laps. I was able to go quite smooth through the bottom right hander. You can see the exit, the difference, by just running really smooth to the adjacent wall there, and I was able to come across the line with 38.464, and unfortunately there was a driver there who had spun out, so I knew that a yellow flag was coming at this point, and there it is just flashing up. But I was really happy with that at 38.464. I believe I was the fastest heavyweight on the evening, which I was really happy with, but this was unable to be matched again for the end of the session, so that was my fastest time, and I was really happy with this, trying to keep the tyres warm behind the driver in kart number 8 here, as I felt that as much as I could keep the tyres warm, the better it would be for me, because I was really struggling. Here was another driver behind me, this was Harley, and he comes down to the track at Bristol quite often, and I thought by letting him pass he would actually drag me along, as he is a lightweight, and I thought by following some of his lines I'd realise, well, I'm losing a little bit of time. So here through the bottom section, really trying to stick to the back of him. You can see losing a little bit of time coming out of the second corner there, getting into the hairpin here. You can see how wide and how much the back of the kart slips out, and I was clearly able to have a better exit coming up the ramps. You can see how much we've closed up to him. Bear in mind I am a lot heavier than him. You can see once again through the corners here, where I was making up a lot of time. I found that I was really smooth through the top two hairpins, but you can see straight away the amount of grip he got coming out of the second one compared to me. So I did lose a lot of time there, and also on the bottom right hand corner there I lost a lot of time, which I was a little bit upset with. So I knew that was the section where I was losing most of my time. Coming through the bottom bit here, I found that I was closing up and I was doing quite well until the power got put down and he sort of raced away. So I was trying to keep up with him. I messed up there a little bit. It's clearly a little bit angry with myself there, but it is something we learned from. We know that we did go in a little bit too hot there, and that meant that we just didn't have the angle on the kart to try and get it rotated in the correct way, and almost going into the wall there coming out of the fast right hander as well. I was checking behind me to see if I was holding up anyone behind me, but luckily for me I did have a bit of free air behind me, so I really wanted to press forward and try and catch up to Harley if I could, because I knew that I was coming towards the end of the session at this point. And you can see there he is being held up by another driver ahead, so this gave me a little bit of an opportunity to catch up, and luckily it did move wide for him and they also moved wide for me. So here I got a really good exit there on the bottom hairpin. You see how much time I'm actually closing up to Harley ahead of me, and here I wanted to try and maximise my speed, really letting off there to try and keep the car under control, which, as I've mentioned, was really difficult on this evening. We come through the bottom few corners here, I really did find that the time was really slipping away. He was really managing to get a lot out of the kart compared to me, which I was quite surprised with. But on the evening I was actually able to get a fast lap with him, which I was really happy with. But that was in fact the last lap of the session, so we did get a 38.826 to round off the session. This does, however, bring us to the end of the video, so I hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed making it. If you have enjoyed, could you please hit the like button down below, as I really do appreciate it. Subscribe once again if you are new, as I do have a lot of new events coming up very soon. I'm very excited to bring to you. My Instagram is also linked down below if you want to get in touch with me and keep yourself up to date. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.